What are some of the things you considered when planning for and implementing intensive intervention within your district's RTI model?
One of the things that we discovered when we got our collaborative team together and we reviewed our results and our data and our interventions is that we lacked a systematic system for students who had the most needs academically from grades really K through 12th grade in our system. We had kind of a hodgepodge of interventions being used. One grade might use XYZ intervention, another grade might use, or grade band might use something else. So one of the things we did is decide as a district where we wanted to be, and there were a couple of key elements to that vision statement, the strategic plan, as it were. And the first one was that we wanted a guaranteed and viable curriculum. And we tied that because that's what we were doing in general ed. So what that meant is that we wanted a consistent Tier 3 intervention at all of our buildings, so that if a student left one of our elementaries, went to another elementary, there'd be continuity. There wouldn't be a need for a lot of evaluation. What we wanted to do is make that move quickly and be able to get the student right into an intervention. So that's the first key part. The next key thing would be to put in place evidence-based or research-based intervention that there was efficacy data supporting the use of that. And then the third component of that was that everybody would be trained to use those. So we did the research on What Works Clearinghouse, looked at the Florida Center for Reading Research, used the National Center on RTI and National Center on Intensive Interventions to look at where and their best practices documents to determine programs that gave us the most evidence of effectiveness on students that were in our building. So then we purchased those, we did training, and so one of the things that we really wanted to make sure is that in addition to the 4 items earlier is that so a student, as they move from elementary to middle school, then to high school, we wanted the same intervention, just different levels. So we were able to implement that in both reading and math, and we have evidence-based interventions for those Tier 3 students at all of those levels. We monitor the results from those, and we always review, at least yearly, are those interventions, one, being implemented with fidelity, and secondly, and critically important, is are the students that are getting those interventions, are those being monitored, the students being monitored with using progress monitoring, so we know whether or not those interventions are making a difference. And so that's what we do. We're following those students to make sure those interventions are having a difference. The other thing that comes along with that would be staff training. So all of our Tier 3 interventionists, all are trained. And then we also, setting up those interventions then dictated that we really needed to make sure those interventions were implemented for the full amount of minutes that they were supposed to be implemented for. So we found in some cases that we might be providing a student who had significant reading challenges at a 25 to 30 minute intervention. And the research told us pretty clearly if we ever really wanted to make catch-up growth of that student, make significant differences in their academic lives, we needed to ramp that up to 90 minutes. So it helped us also to get consistent amounts of minutes through our school system. for students in need. So reading was first. We've done that with math. And now what we're looking at is bringing the PBIS piece and looking at our behavioral interventions to determine, to put in place good interventions. So that's that has been very useful for our districts. We've been monitoring students and know that we're making progress. One of the next pieces, in addition to looking at behavior, is to review our results for Tier 3 students and review results not only against the Tier 3 interventions, but evaluate the results of those students against our state assessments. Because one of the challenges that comes up is if you are really serious about making gains with intensive students at Tier 3, you need to evaluate them and their ability to access the typical or the core curriculum. And that's been a concern. We have students that are making progress in their intervention, but a big question is, are they also then making progress towards meeting state benchmark targets? So we're looking at, so how do we begin to introduce those standards assessed by the state and now assessed by the new Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, the new Common Core Standards. So that's our next work that's going to face us, and we've started on that now, and we're excited to see where that takes us for our next level.